And like, so is this in the pro ranks, or is this like is this like your amateur career there, or is this like
back then they used to call it semi-pro.
right?
But some shows call it semi-pro now, but it's not the same thing. It was just, I believe, it was with 4-ounce gloves. They didn't bring in the bigger gloves till later. The rules were like, basically every show you turn up at, the rules were different. The fight which actually spurred me to train, where I lost, was meant to be no ground and pound on the floor.
Right.
And the guy ground and pounded me on the floor, and they called the fight. He won. It is what it is. It's kind of, it was very Wild Westy.
I was just about to say that it was the Wild West back then.
Yeah, 100%. It was great though. It was absolutely great. So many interesting people and characters, and there's still definitely that in the sport, but I feel like it's been watered down with normies like myself. I'm one of those normos. It was it was an unusual experience walking into the first few gyms and place I trained at. Like, I am, from just a normal, nice family, as average as you can imagine in the UK, and going to this place with just these wild people who were trained to be cage fighters. From day one, my dad thought I was insane. Like, nobody, you had to watch the UFC on Spike TV at 3 o'clock in the morning. Then there was no there was no accessibility to it, and you'd be on message boards and forums. Like these black and white message boards. It was just a different time.
Oh, because I remember it was like I had some VHS like back in the day from a neighbour, and then I think it was like when it was in Spike in America, it was like Bravo in the UK.
Yeah,
was
Bravo.
it Bravo?
That's the one.
And I remember that was like I remember playing a computer game, and then seeing this new generation, this like Chuck Liddell and whatnot, Dreamcast days.
Yeah.
And then you start seeing more videos. I'm like, I want to try and watch this, but it was very difficult to get hold of, wasn't it? It wasn't as easy as it was now. So like you're in the when you get into the mix of it, is like you're in your professional career. It's around like 2012. You pick up your first pro title with the Pain Pit Fight Night. What?
Yeah, I mean, that was maybe my first pro title. I'd had fights before that. I think I've been fighting 13 years now.
Yeah.
Or 14 years. 14 years. I'm 35. Not 34. Pain Pit actually went on to be Cage Warriors Wales.
I thought so, yeah.
So that's Richard Shaw, Shaky, who obviously, Shaw MMA, his son Jack, he was an amateur then. But, people were already talking about him then. But yeah, that show was, old school Pain Pit.
That's when you said about Wild West, I was like, Pain Pit, like that sums it up, right?
To be honest, that wasn't that was one of the best shows.
Yeah.
That was like, it sounds the name.
Yeah.
And I feel like he was trying to go maybe a little bit on the art, it sounded a cool name. And Richard Shaw runs an amazing show. Even back then, the shows were well organised, better than a lot of the guys now.
Yeah.
It was super cool. There was like a bunch of these shows where you'd see these top guys fighting and coaching, and then going on to be even more as time went on. It was cool though. It was fun. But like some of the shows, we used to like fighting in nightclubs and stuff. And honestly, they're some of the best shows I've competed on.
Yeah.
They're great fun, like in tiny venues. With like some of them, to be honest, have got amazing acoustics. So like it kind of adds to the, you might have 300 people there, but it sounds like 5 times that many.
What's the scene like when you're coming up and you're, like you're saying, you're fighting in these nightclubs, these other venues and whatnot? Like, who are you seeing in passing? Like just like other athletes. I know you mentioned like Vaughn and the guys in the gym, but like when you're on the shows competing and like on the come up at the same time as you, like who was there?
Well, actually, like not long after we the gym moved around, there was a guy called Ross Houston.
Yeah.
Who 10 years later ends up being Cage Warriors champion and a really, really good fighter, Bellator fighter as well. But just on the scene, like Jack Shaw. Like Jack Shaw was just Richard's son who's competing. And, he looks all right. He's doing all right. And you kind of like, there's so many people like, I was around kind of as Leon Edwards and Yannick and those guys, the guys from Birmingham were kind of, occasionally we go over and train there. And like you kind of know each other a little bit, say hello and stuff. And there's kind of too many to mention, you know what I mean? There's so many guys that like I'm picking, the biggies. It makes me sound cooler, as if we're like super tight.
Yeah.
But no, like they're people you're sort of on first name terms with, you're friendly with. But there's literally so many out there, and it's like a bunch of the guys who maybe weren't in the UFC or in the top tier now got gyms, and those gyms have UFC fighters, or they have like it's quite cool. The expansion in some ways is pretty cool.
And like, just to go back to that, so like when you finally pick up like your first pro title after going through this scene and that, like what's the feeling to you, like as like a young man, like you picked up your first pro title, like you said, your dad thought you was crazy then, but by that time is he your family, they're coming around to it, he's good at it, this is a career?
Yeah, I mean my dad's always been, he just thought I was crazy, but has always been supportive of what I wanted to do. He kind of like, I feel like men in their kind of hearts, a lot of men kind of want to at some point have a. We've always watched boxing, even like like pro wrestling. We've kind of watched it, and it's like cool, and you see these guys in the middle of the arena, center of attention. So kind of in our heart of hearts, everyone kind of at some point, everyone wanted to be Usain Bolt, or everyone wanted to be Mike Tyson, Lennox Lewis. So like he kind of got it. Thought I was crazy, but kind of loved that I was doing something that is a little different, that I'm trying to put it out there. My mum never loved it. She was always just worried about the damage you take and stuff, which is as valid a reason not to like it as anything. Maybe the most. But yeah, it's kind of like, to me, like I never did it for like belts and titles. Like it's kind of corny to say, like they don't mean anything to me. I don't have half my belts, half my trophies. I don't have my fight gloves, my wraps. I don't have most of those things. I don't really care about them. I've got memories. I've got some pictures. I've got some fun stories. But it was more like I enjoyed competing. I enjoyed going out there. Like I think if I can't remember if I won it from the guy or if he was the guy defended against in Pain Pit. But it was like the guy I was competing against was like a former professional rugby player. So a serious athlete. Big, strong, athletic guy, and I believe he was trained at Shore MMA as well. So good gym, good guy. And it's like part of the fun is like just testing yourself, and you kind of, especially then I was maybe 103, 104. Fighting at heavyweight, tiny, and seeing this big 115, 116 kilogram monster, with his tattoos from here, all, like all the way down the neck, down the arm, all that. I'm still clean, still not got a single one.
Tribal tats and everything.
Yeah, oh man, it was tribal central back then. Like I wonder why aren't those guys? Why doesn't every coach have a tribal tattoo? Because all the fighters had them.
Yeah.
But no, it was a fun time. But for me, it's always just been about competing and having fun. Like literally, like I have a couple of my belts still, but I just enjoy scrapping, and I kind of nowadays more and more I'm enjoying the technical aspect of it as I coach more and more. Has become a lot more about the kind of the chess match, whatever you want to call it. The technical aspect is much more fun for me now.
Yeah.